Lake Superior is one of nature's most spectacular wonders. This lake is at once beautiful and treacherous, inviting and foreboding, a playground for tourists and a graveyard for the unwary. For seasoned sailors, there's nothing like the fear felt during a Lake Superior storm. And there's nothing like the relief of finding safe harbor in a storm. This is the story of one such safe harbor. There's a harbor on the lake that has been a safe harbor since it was discovered in 1660 by French travelers. This natural deep-water harbor remained an important harbor of refuge along Lake Superior's so-called shipwreck coast. Today, the Coast Guard continues to receive distress calls from boaters on the lake, people who are brought to this safe harbor.
The storm started to kick up after we had them hooked up and started towing them. The waves went from 1 foot or so to 4 foot or better, and they were bouncing and coming right over the top of the boat. And we knew that if we headed east instead of going south and getting in the lee of the sand dunes, we probably wouldn't make it. So we headed south till we got into 40 foot of water. The waves calmed down, and then we pulled them around to the breakwater.
We've actually had a couple incidences where commercial boats have come into the harbor. Cruise boats have used us as a harbor refuge. We had a situation where there was a tug that got in here in a bad storm. They were towing another tug. The tug they were towing broke free. Those guys got into here by the skin of their teeth, and it was a terrible, terrible storm. And they were very happy to get here, and very happy that we were here and able to accommodate them.
But the Grand Marais Harbor is in danger of losing the very quality that makes it one of Lake Superior's most important safe harbors. In 1883, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers built 2 parallel jetties to provide access into the harbor for the fishing and timber industries that were thriving in the region. In 1895, a breakwall was added. These had the effect of keeping the harbor clear. However, since 1943, there has not been any maintenance of any kind on the breakwall, and as a result, over 100,000 cubic yards of silt is deposited in the harbor every year. The depth of the harbor has fallen from a maximum of 55 feet to 20 feet. In fact, some parts of the harbor are only 4 feet deep.
Property owners are gaining at the east end of the harbor hundreds of feet a year, literally, because it's filling up so fast. The east end of the harbor is actually lost as far as I'm concerned.
The harbor itself is filling in at the rate of 100,000 cubic yards of sand every year.
The harbor and the surrounding shoreline have been affected by the continued neglect of the harbor structure, resulting in the loss of valuable aquatic habitat and a deep water harbor located on a dangerous section of Lake Superior.
Spawning, the fisheries, the piping plover, all those things can be protected or enhanced. I think that's the thing we really got to grab onto.
In December of 2000, the University of Michigan Ocean Engineering Laboratory completed a study entitled Grand Marais Harbor, Rehabilitation Design Alternatives. The final report concluded that it is imperative that action be taken now to dredge the harbor and to build a new breakwall designed to mitigate the amount of sand and silt flowing into the harbor every day. Since then, citizens of the area have called upon the federal government to heed the study and allocate funds for the project. A frustrating process, to say the least.
We've been trying to get money in order to fix the problem at Grand Marais Harbor for actually many, many years.
So what does the harbor mean to people who live, work, and play on Lake Superior?
Lake Superior, as everybody knows, is a very difficult lake and very dangerous lake. So these harbors of refuge are important and very critical given the long expanse of shoreline and undeveloped shoreline where people can get assistance and cover.
The inaction on the part of our federal government since 1943 has created an emergency in Grand Marais. Even the simple act of launching a boat has become a deadly situation.
As a direct result of the deteriorated breakwall, on October 6 of 2006, we had a boating accident where 3 people perished on the lake.
There was a little breeze, southwest breeze. It was a nice sunny day, real warm. I had a 24-foot sitting in the garage here that I would have used that day, but we couldn't launch it down at the marina. So it was the marina was full of sand. Waves rolled right in the back, and the back end of the boat went right straight down, just like that. Straight down, and the front come like over backwards like that.
I had a feeling. I had a knot in my stomach. I called my neighbor and asked him if he could get them on the marine radio. There was no response. So I just ran down to drove down to the marina, and the Park Service were there. And I asked them, "Are you going out into the water?" And they said, "No, we can't get our boat in." I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, because the sand has come in and we can't launch the boat."
With northeast winds, within 2 days, it can be full of sand. So at the end of the season, we have to be very careful and keep an eye out for that so that we can get the boat out. So with that in mind, we had pulled the boat out probably a week earlier.
And we were upside down, and 3 of us were sitting on the boat, and Willard said, I just lost my son, Eldon. He had jumped in after his wife, and Willard and I sat on the boat for a few hours. He was laying on the boat, and then he just passed away, and a big wave just took him right off the boat, and he just laid on the water, and I watched him just float down, sink, and he never moved a muscle. If that marina hadn't been full of sand, it would have never happened.
It was a lot for him to go through, and a lot for those others of us, myself and others included, that have gone through so much because of this. And I just hope people will understand the urgency of this message.
The University of Michigan study states that one of the alternatives on the table for the harbor is to do nothing at all. If that is the course of action, the study predicts the eventual disappearance of this harbor of refuge, this safe harbor.
I seriously doubt that this harbor will be functional in 3 years from now.
My judgment is that within 5 to 10 years, the harbor will be completely useless.
What has to happen to make sure that Grand Marais continues to provide a harbor of refuge to the boaters on Lake Superior's shipwrecked coast?
What we need to do at this point is to replace that breakwall, heading east a certain point and then angling it towards the shore again. This is the breakwall that the township would like to build.
The preferred solution will cost about $6 million to $8 million. That will be a much shorter wall than originally was in place.
It's all about money. If the community is successful in getting grants and pulls things together, it could happen next year.
The situation at Grand Marais Harbor gets more and more desperate every day. People who rely on the harbor for whatever the reason, recreation, commercial, rescue, will find one day that this safe harbor of refuge will be a thing of the past, and anyone out on this big lake will find themselves alone with lives hanging in the balance.
It cost $6 million to fix this harbor and to build this breakwall. What's a life worth? Is life worth $1 million? If 3 more of my friends drown, will you give me $6 million then to build a breakwall?